Munish Mehta, LLB, CA, CS, IRP. Assisted by CA Deshant Arora, B.com, H, M.com CA. Reliefs. To transfer within qualifying group. Conditions for qualifying group. Consideration and valuation. Exemption provision not applicable. 3. Business restructuring relief. Conditions for availing exemption. Consideration and valuation. Exemption provision not applicable. 4. Small business relief. Revenue computation. Reliefs. Relief is a reduction in the amount of tax that a person or company has to pay. The proposed UAE corporate tax regime allows taxable person to seek group relief in terms of losses, intra-group transactions, restructurings and small business relief. What if transfer taken place between two taxable person of same qualifying group? Transfer within a qualifying group, Article 26. When there is the transfer of assets of liabilities between two taxable persons who are part of the same qualifying group, then, there will be no gains or losses from such a transfer. These transfers are subject to certain conditions to be fulfilled by the taxable persons to claim the exemption. Assets/liabilities. Co 1. All conditions needs to be fulfilled for qualifying group. Taxable persons would be considered to be part of the same qualifying group, if all of the following conditions are satisfied. The taxable persons are juridical persons that are 1. Resident persons, or 2. Non-resident persons that have a permanent establishment in the UAE. Ownership criterion. 1 taxable person has minimum 75% of direct ownership interest in the other taxable person. 1 taxable person has minimum 75% indirect ownership interest in the other taxable person. A third person has minimum 75% ownership interest, directly or indirectly, in the other taxable persons. None of the taxable persons are exempt persons or qualifying free zone under the UAE corporate tax law. The taxable persons should follow the same tax period. The taxable persons should prepare their respective financial statements in accordance with the same applicable accounting standards. Consideration and valuation. Transfer of assets or liabilities within the group should be recorded in the book of accounts of both the taxable persons in the following manner. The following shall be considered. Transfer on net book value. The asset or liability that has been transferred within the group shall be treated at net book value so that no gain or loss is recorded in the accounting books of the transferor company. Consideration paid or received. Consideration received or paid against the transfer should be equal to the net book value of transfer. Withdrawal of relief granted from taxation on transfer of assets or liabilities. The relief from taxation on transfer of assets or liabilities granted to a taxpayer will be withdrawn, if within 2 years from the date of the transfer, the asset or liability received is transferred by the transferee outside the qualifying group, or a taxable person which is a member of the qualifying group ceases to be a part of the same qualifying group. In any of these situations, the transfer shall be deemed to have taken place at market value on the date of such transfer, for calculating the taxable income of both the taxable persons. What is business restructuring relief? Business restructuring relief, Article 27. No gain or loss needs to be taken into account in determining taxable income in any of the following circumstances. A taxable person transfers its entire business or an independent part of its business to another person who is taxable person or became taxable person in exchange for ownership interests. One or more taxable person transfer their entire business to another taxable person or became taxable person for share or ownership interest. CT law will exempt or allow for a deferral of taxation where a whole business, or independent parts of a business, are transferred in exchange for shares or other ownership interest. Transfer deemed at tax net book value. What exactly is a restructuring transaction? A restructuring transaction is any transaction in which a company or its group companies restructures its business operations. Here are a few examples of restructuring deals. Acquisition and merger. Spin-off and demerger. Transfer or sale all or a portion of a company to another company. Conditions to avail the business restructuring relief. The taxable person are resident person or non-resident person that have permanent establishment in the UAE. None of the person are an exempt person. None of the person are a qualifying free zone person. The financial year of each of the taxable person ends on the same date. The taxable person prepare their financial statements using the same accounting standards. The transfer is for a valid commercial reason or a non-fiscal reason. Consideration and valuation. The assets and liabilities transferred at their net book value so that no gain or loss is to be recorded in the accounting books of the transacting parties. The value of the share/ownership interest received shall not exceed the net book value of assets transferred, thus no loss or gain in the accounting books of the transacting parties. Any unutilized tax losses incurred by transferor may become carried forward to transferee subject to condition prescribed by Minister. Withdrawal of relief granted from taxation on business restructuring. There is subsequent transfer of the asset/liability outside of the qualifying group within 2 years from date of transfer. The taxable person cease to be members of the same qualifying group within 2 years from date of transfer. The transfer of the asset/liability shall be treated as having taken place at market value at the date of transfer for determining the taxable income. Small business relief. Let's learn about small business relief. A taxable person being a resident with revenue below the threshold limit set by the Minister and meet the following conditions. The revenue of taxable person for the relevant tax period and previous tax period does not exceed threshold limit set by the Minister. The taxable person meets all other conditions prescribed by the Minister. While calculating revenue, following provision shall not be considered: revenue computation. How to compute revenue for small business relief. Thank you.